Today I'm going to talk about the papers that you can use to collage a background. Now, what you want to do with mixed media is lay down papers and then paint over them with something like a wash so that they show through a little bit, but you never want the papers to be the focal point. So I wanted to show you I never throw away any papers. I have so many of them, but I just wanted to show you some of my pile of papers so you can get an idea of what to start hoarding. So this is from an old book. I believe this is Tom Sawyer, and I painted over it. And then this year there was a group of artists that came up with a calendar, and each day in the calendar is a different piece of mixed media art. If you want to order this next year, follow Shawn Petite. She is a fantastic mixed media artist. It's SHAWN Petite. And she was one of the artists in here. So as I rip off each page and each day, I save these because they're such beautiful pieces and I can use them in the backgrounds. I actually, as you can see, took this piece of board because it doesn't come with this board and collaged it as a way to make it sit up. All right, so there is a fantastic place. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a fantastic place in Durham, North Carolina, where they don't, anything at all that you don't want anymore, you can bring there and they will find a way to reuse it. And they have a huge warehouse just full of stuff, and it's a mixed media artist's dream. So I've gone there and picked up things like playing cards and raffle tickets and this piece of paper. I don't even know what this was originally used for. Maybe some kind of school project. This is paper that I think, I've had this for so long, I ordered online from some place like Dick Blick. And it came in a packet of papers, and I love it so much. I'm keeping every single scrap of it, and I use these scraps all the time in my work. One of my favorite things to use are dictionary pages. Whenever I see an old dictionary, I grab it, and if there's a word that I use frequently, like I use words like hope and soar frequently, I've scanned them into my computer so that I can print them out again, and then I'll just paint over them with a light brown wash to make them look aged. But I love to use them in the background, especially when there's a word that, like soar, I'll use the definition for soar in the background. This one was made with a jelly plate. And I will post another video sometime soon about how to use a jelly plate. But a jelly plate is basically this squishy kind of plate used for printing. And you can lay paint down on it and then do things like stamp on it. This was with a paper towel roll that I stamped on it and then laid this paper on top. And when I pulled the paper off, this was the result of what I got. So whatever you stamp onto the jelly plate comes off on the paper. This was, again, made with a jelly plate. Looks like this came out of an old book. And I painted and then put a stencil of a bee and painted over that. And here's another stamp of a flower. Old maps are great. I got those also in that shop in Durham. Here's some old stamps. This came from a piece of my own artwork. Some more of those papers. I had some of my artwork turned into cards. I was selling them as cards for a while, and I have a bunch of extras, so I'm hanging on to those to use. This is just some very beautiful textured scrapbook paper that I picked up somewhere. I use flowers in my work a lot, so these are just extra flowers that I didn't use. And I came across this somewhere and thought it was beautiful, so I kept it. Here's some more flowers. This was also made with a jelly plate. Excuse me. I put down several different colors, and this is rice paper. It works really well for printing with a jelly plate. And here's some more that I printed with a jelly plate. Now this one is really interesting. This was Tyvek paper. If you don't know what Tyvek is, this envelope from the post office is Tyvek paper. You can get these for free. You take the envelope and cut a piece out and then run a blow dryer over the top of it, and it causes it to shrink up. And before I ran the blow dryer over it, I painted it with this brown paint. And then it shrunk up and gave this really interesting texture. I keep old cards, and I might not use this. This was obviously an old Easter card. I might not use it for Easter, but look at that cool border. I might use that somewhere. Same thing with this one. I used this border at some point. Here is, I get the magazine Birds and Blooms, and they have fantastic photos of birds and flowers, and this picture of the hummingbird came from there. Another map. You can go to a hardware store and pick up swatches, color swatches. Those are free. And I love to use music in my work. I use it in the background very frequently. I think this one is probably a photocopy, because what I like to do is find vintage music books, and I keep my eye out for those, and they're already brown. But if I had to use a photocopy, I would just paint this with a light brown wash to make it look aged. This is just something I got off the internet. This is also came from that shop in Durham. It's vintage wallpaper. And this can make for an interesting background as well. So I hope you that gives you some ideas. Oh, one more thing. This is probably my favorite thing. This came from Etsy, and they are truly antique vintage letters. This one is from 1897. And this one is from 1894, 1892, 1942. What I've done with these, I love them so much, and I feel like they're so valuable to me that I don't think they're actually valuable because the stamps are all canceled. But I love using them in my work, and I've scanned them all into the computer, and then I print them out and use them. But they're a treasure trove. So I hope that gives you some really good ideas of what kind of papers you can use in your backgrounds. Enjoy creating.